It is now my pleasure to start the day with a presentation from 374Water. The company is a global clean tech technology provider with a focus on environmental pollution challenges. Its waste stream treatment system transforms wet waste such as sewage sludge, biosolids, food waste, hazardous and non-hazardous waste, including forever chemicals, into recoverable resources in the United States and Canada. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Russell Kline, the company's Chief Financial Officer. Russell was named CFO in December of 2024. He has 20 years of domestic and international strategic, financial, operational, and capital market experience. Having recently served as Senior VP Finance of Ole Distribution, his expertise in scaling that business throughout the Americas will play an important role as 374Water, which is in the early stage of commercializing and scaling the adoption of its technology. 374Water has 151 million shares outstanding, a stock price of 35 cents, a market cap of 53 million, net cash of 2 million for an enterprise value of 51 million. And without further ado, I will now let Russell talk about 374Water Technologies, their role in the current environment, and the company's future. Russell?
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for that introduction, and thank the Gabelli Conference for including us in this important conference and the opportunity to talk about PFAS. While they're pulling that up, as Rosemarie said, 374Water offers the technical solution to the treatment of organic waste, including PFAS, and the importance of addressing this long-term issue that's becoming more and more of an issue as we learn more and more about the long-term effects of PFAS. So 374Water's technology utilizes supercritical water, and thus our name, our stock symbol of SCWO for supercritical. Our supercritical water process, let's see, nope, we don't have a presentation yet. Our supercritical water process offers the ability for companies and or municipalities to address their waste streams, organic waste streams, and our technology applies a continuous flow to the supercritical water process. So supercritical water is the fourth state of water, where at a high temperature and a high pressure, the water actually breaks down the organics within a waste stream and makes them back to an inert chemical, an output of water that, while it's not drinkable immediately when it comes out, it could go through another process and actually become potable water, and an immense amount of energy. And part of that energy is then used within our process because there's a heating of the water and there's a heating of that waste stream. And so currently we're utilizing a portion of that heat within our process. And we believe that going forward, as we continue to scale the technology, we will be able to recover that energy, whether in an industrial setting for other usage or for possible energy production based upon the amount of heat that's generated. Within the PFAS specifically, it's something that as a company we're working to address and working on some of our current projects, and as we see going forward, still no presentation. So within in being able to address PFAS. So for example, we currently have an ongoing project in Orlando working with the Iron Bridge wastewater treatment facility. As was mentioned in the introduction, one of the challenges that municipalities have with their wastewater treatment is the current disposal methods in some cases include land application of that sludge, of being able to apply that. And in the case of Orlando, let's see, and we have a presentation. Thank you. So I'm going to jump forward, or actually I'm going to pause here. I'll go back to this. I mentioned our process, and I just want to highlight within our process again, we're starting with a waste stream that whether it is a liquid or a liquid, we're able to put it through our process, or if it's a dry matter or a slurry, then we can get it to a point that we put it through our process, combining it with water and with air at a high pressure, again, at a high temperature, is the supercritical water process that then breaks down that waste stream, with the output being the safe dischargeable water that can either go back into the process, or with additional treatment can even become potable water. The mineral output is inert minerals, and I'll show that in a minute, the example of the in and the out. And again, that heat energy which can possibly be recovered. So here's an example of the types of materials that we have successfully destroyed to date, or treatment, as we say, a full treatment solution, including some of the things that were talked about earlier, the AFFF. Earlier this year, we were awarded from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, a treatment process for the first batch of AFFF, and we're working on that currently, and we expect that that's an additional opportunity with additional volume to be awarded, and we're actively bidding on AFFF, which is an issue that needs to be addressed and that we provide a waste treatment solution to. So here's where I wanted to just highlight on the Orlando project that I had started to mention. This again is with their wastewater treatment facilities, one of their locations, and what they're looking at this is as a treatment solution, not just for one location, but to expand, because they're currently taking their biosludge, it's being land applied in many cases, or it's being sent for incineration. And so what they're looking at is a full treatment solution that eliminates their cost of land application, and in the future limits their liability related to PFAS and other potential issues from that process. So this is a picture of our installation within their facility, and we're taking in that biosludge, putting it into a slurry state, and then running it through our process. And here's where I wanted to highlight is the ins and the outs. So on the left side there, you see the wastewater concentration coming in, not something that, obviously you can just put anywhere. And on the right side, you see is the water output once it's gone through. The waste has been eliminated from that feed sludge, which is at approximately a 15% waste. And what's coming out is that clean water and the mineral effluents that you see on the right. So the efficiency, or the process itself, eliminates 99+% of the PFAS within the waste streams. And we've been able to do that on a consistent basis across this process with Orlando and demonstrating that process with them, as well as with the project that we're currently working on with Orange County Sanitation, in which we expect to deliver our machine out there this fall related to that process, or that project itself also. Some additional examples of the efficiency of the PFAS treatment. And now I just want to go back and talk a little bit more about 374Water business. So we've had a very busy year, and I don't think it's attributable just to me joining in December, but one of the exciting things and the reasons I joined was the great business potential that the technology and the company has, and the big potential that we're seeing. So as I mentioned, we did receive an award from North Carolina for the treatment of AFFF. We're expecting to deliver our Orlando and our OC Sand projects. And we're also currently working with the Department of Defense on a project in Detroit that we're a little bit over halfway through, where we will demonstrate the efficiency of SCWO to treat 6 different waste streams. And what we expect with that is that we will receive the golden ticket from the Department of Defense of having an approved vendor and approved technology based upon our efficiency in treating those waste streams. And we know that the Department of Defense is looking at the risk that they have and the issues that they have on their bases and other locations, both within the United States and elsewhere, of waste contamination and how that will be treated. So we believe that upon completion of this project in Detroit, that will open up an additional revenue stream and additional possibility for the business in order to be able to directly gain or win bids with the Department of Defense related to their ongoing cleanup efforts. And then, as mentioned earlier, we continue to see regulatory requirements around not just PFAS, but just overall waste streams, with the continued focus of the EPA on PFAS and the treatment of it, not just moving the issue down the road, but truly treating it and addressing it both in its long form and short form, which is something that our SCWO technology does. And our SCWO technology, again, is a full treatment solution. It's not moving that issue down the road, whether that's via incineration, which can still allow certain particles to be released, as well as the issue of the ash itself, versus landfilling or biosolids being land applied, which is becoming more and more of an issue as we understand what types of chemicals and issues are included in that biosludge. So we look at the waste treatment as a $450 billion global issue. As a company, we are currently focused on North America, but we all know that waste is a global issue. But we are currently focused on delivering on our North American projects, and then what we would expect to do is going forward expand internationally as our technology has applications on a worldwide basis. I just want to start with the municipalities. I mentioned previously the projects that we're working on related to biosludge, and we see this as a large opportunity across the United States, just with the sheer number of wastewater treatment facilities and the municipality requirements to address that waste. We were speaking with the head of the Orlando wastewater treatment just in the last couple of weeks, and he said, jokingly, he knows that in his business, he's never going to run out of demand, or he's never going to run out of that supply, because it's 24/7, 365 days a year. And so, again, we're working with them to address this as an alternative treatment solution, that it reduces their need to transport, landfill, or land apply the waste, because you're truly treating it and addressing that waste stream there. Importantly, also, is the federal opportunity that we see with the Department of Defense, with other government entities, looking at whether that's AFFF or other types of waste from a government standpoint, and how that gets addressed. So this is another important area that we see as a requirement for those entities to address. And as was mentioned earlier, there are funds being designated from some of these settlements, specifically for the cleanup and the opportunity that we see there. And then also an important area that we believe we'll be able to address going forward is the industrial. So within the manufacturing processes, and when we talked about the PFAS at the start, of whether it's the pots and pans, the carpet, other types of things, PFAS was previously has been used in the production of, and we can see that as that winds down, we now then need to address some of the issues that come with that residual of the PFAS, as well as just treating other kinds of organic industrial waste. So within our pipeline, we look at it as we currently have about a $1.8 billion pipeline. I wish that was all contracted revenue, but that's our pipeline. Currently this year, we're projecting that we're going to do between $4 and $6 million of revenue, and that's dependent upon the timing of a couple potential deals, the timing of those happening within this year still. For the first 6 months, we had approximately $1.1 million of revenue, versus last year we were a little over $400,000. The bulk of that revenue was related to, that we recognized so far this year, was related to the completion of certain demonstrations earlier in the year, as well as progress billings on the projects that we expect to continue to deliver this year. And that's how we expect to go from the 1.1 million to 4 million plus, again, depending upon the timing of a couple other potential deals there. But when we look at that overall demand of that 1.8 billion in our pipeline, we look at it within those guidelines of, or business areas of the municipalities. We expect for the projects that we have to date with Orlando and OC San, that upon those successful completion, that they will be doing additional orders and going to the next phase within those projects, as well as when we look at other municipalities that we're currently talking with for projects and being able to build upon those. And then really the biggest opportunity that we have, and in the discussions that we've had ongoing, is with the federal and particularly the Department of Defense related to their ongoing cleanup needs. So we currently have several outstanding proposals, and we expect that as we go forward, again, with that golden ticket, that will help open additional doors for the business and for the application of our technology. This is a snapshot of our current operations and current deployments. We are based, our company itself came out of a Duke research project, and we continue to maintain a lab in North Carolina where we do ongoing research and demonstrations. And then our current installation is in, and our manufacturing location is based in Orlando as a partnership with the Iron Bridge Wastewater Treatment Facility. So as I mentioned, we currently have a project ongoing right now in Detroit. We did a project earlier this year in Colorado with at the Peterson Space Force Base with our mobile unit, and I'll show the different types of sizes that we have of our AS units. And then in California, we're expecting to roll out that project and delivery of that project this year related to the Orange County Sanitation Project. And then just last week, we made an announcement that we've signed our first agreement with Crystal Clean, that we will bring our technology to their Oregon, Ohio location, where we will be launching our waste destruction services, and I'll be talking more about that. Here's the different sizes of our units, and just to touch on those quickly. Our first size, the AS1, and the 1 in the numbers is our expected output on a daily basis, is a mobile unit. It is based within, completely able to go on site and treat waste there. Our AS6 is what we're currently utilizing both in Orlando and then in our Detroit demonstration. So that unit is also transportable, modular, and being able to move around. And then what we expect and what we're in development on, and we expect to go into production next year on our AS30, is a larger size unit that will be completely modular, and at that volume will be much more attractive both from a municipal and we expect from an industrial standpoint on the volume that it will be able to process on a daily basis. On our go-to-market strategy, we expect to continue to build on our capital sales to date, as well as then with the launch of our waste destruction services, and have a mixture of that to address customers' needs, whether they want to own it themselves, possibly have us operate it, or in the waste destruction services, they bring waste to us and we process it and then provide them with a certificate of destruction. So we believe waste destruction services will be an important opportunity for the business to have recurring revenue and to expand our footprint. So our plan is to launch over the next couple years and have multiple locations, geographic locations, that will address waste treatment for customers, as well as having AS1 units that we can bring on site on a mobile basis, or even AS6 units in order to be able to address waste streams at a customer's location. So this is our projections for waste destruction services and why we're very excited about the opportunity. We believe that this will generate ongoing recurring revenue and provide an attractive return on our investment based upon the expected tipping fees and processing fees for waste. And this is right now treating non-hazardous waste, and we expect then going forward that when we're able to treat and we're able to have the RCRA permit requirements, working with our TSDF partners, that we would also then be able to treat hazardous waste even at a higher level. So as I mentioned, this year we're projecting to do between $4 and $6 million of revenue. And we believe as we roll out the larger scale sizes at the AS30 and then going beyond that, as well as with the launch of waste destruction services, that we expect to have a significant revenue growth over the next few years, with that being driven again from a mix of recurring revenue from our waste destruction services, as well as ongoing capital sales or leases, depending upon the customer need. And we see this right now with our focus this year and into next year being domestically North America, but we continue to have discussions with possible opportunities in Europe and Asia because we see waste as a global issue and SCWO as a global solution for that waste issue. So again, where we are today with 374Water is really growing the business, delivering the technology on a scalable basis, and then being able to apply it to the waste treatment needs from a federal, from a municipal, and an industrial business, or from an industrial business area. So we're excited about where we are today with the delivery of those projects and the opportunities that we have going forward. I want to take a moment now and open it up for questions and further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Question in the back. Is this working?
Hi, thank you. Great presentation. A couple of quick questions. You mentioned that you bring the water to the 4th state. What temperature is that, and how much electricity does it cost? Does it take to do that?
Thank you. So let me start out by saying I'm not an engineer, but I can give you that background. So the 374Water in our name is at the 374 degrees Celsius is that critical point when it gets to the supercritical stage, and that is where the name of 374Water came from. Our current processing of the within our process today is we're actually operating between 500 and 600 degrees Celsius and between 400 and 500 bars of pressure in order to do that. From getting the amount of electricity, it does require more electricity at the start of the process, but once the process is going, that exothermic reaction generates a large amount of heat, and we're actually bringing that back through the process and utilizing it to both heat the water and the waste stream coming in within the process itself.
When you discharge the water to a water treatment facility to be further processed for potability, does the supercritical process change its ability to react with chlorine or fluoride or anything like that?
No, there's no reaction, there's no challenge on that part. You're able to purify the water further, either through the chlorine process or if you do a membrane filtration on it. So in the case of Orlando, for example, the output water itself that we are currently utilizing in that process is actually going back directly into their wastewater treatment process because it's the waste has been removed and the other portion of it. In other cases where we've looked at it, it can be safely discharged, or you could discharge it via water or well injection, but from a output perspective, it can be safely discharged into any normal sewage or other normal disposal process.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
So, Russell, one of the biggest challenge the company faces is establishing a broad-based commercial use of the technologies. So could you give us more details on your capacity expansion timeline? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, and the associated capital needs in order to get there, and how do you plan to fund it?
Thank you for the question, Rosemarie. So we're looking to expand the business itself, building upon our current contracts and the expected additional orders that will come through, as well as now with the example of the Crystal Clean agreement and bringing our technology on that site. So we are currently looking at capital needs for the company, both from our current equity structure as well as looking at other debt and project types financing. And we believe as we go forward with additional contracts and with additional commitments that we will be able to capitalize the company in order to fund the expansion of our manufacturing as well as the production of units both for capital sale as well as for usage within our waste destruction service operations.
Thank you. And one question that has been on the back of my mind, when the company presented last year, the stock price was $1.34, 24 to be exact. It is now 35 cents. So can you touch on the concerns that investors had at the time, and then what should they be looking for today? How can you reassure them that we can go back to that? What do you need to do?
Great, thank you for that question. And the stock performance is definitely a concern for our management team, and for we look at that issue from internally as far as how it's impacted our capital, as well as obviously for our investors. So last year, there was a financing round that was done in November that brought in additional capital, which has been used to continue to build upon and scale the technology this year. That structure itself brought in some institutional pressure and short selling against the company that we've experienced this year. And we believe that with the delivery of the projects that we have ongoing, as well as with additional positive market news going forward, that the stock price will reflect the business potential that we believe in. When we look back at the stock history of the company, versus our price today, we believe that the performance of the company today is at a much higher level than where the stock is currently reflecting it, and where the performance of the company was previously.
At which level do you think, which level of revenues do you think you can be profitable? And that will translate into how many pieces of equipment? And I am guessing you are starting with the AS1. How many of those do you need to have in place? And then we move on to AS6 and so on. Are you manufacturing them yourself? Are you going to be using someone else to manufacture it for you?
Thank you for all those questions. So we're actually, today we have one AS1 unit that we are planning to continue to utilize ourselves or within our waste destruction service operations, as well as for deployments and demonstrations. And then we have two AS6 units. One is being delivered to Orange County Sanitation as part of that project, and the other AS6 will be utilized within our first waste destruction service operation. As far as the manufacturing plan going forward, we are currently manufacturing those units in-house, and we expect to continue to do so, but we expect that we will have a higher demand for the AS6 and ultimately for the AS30 due to the higher volume that those units can do. And one of the interesting things that we're seeing is within the AS30, we're now getting to a larger scale. It's not 5 times the AS6, but the components themselves have an increase in the size, and those components are now going to be more readily available than what we've been doing for the AS1 and the AS6, which we've had to have more customization. As we increase the size and go into the AS30, what we expect is we'll be able to use more off-the-shelf items from, say, the oil and gas industry, which it already works with high pressure, those types of things, and so we'll see a benefit from that. As far as the expectation, we think we're going to have a higher demand again on the AS6 and then ultimately the AS30 and larger from a volume perspective. On our profitability, we are currently working on that and looking at different models of how we have a mix of capital sale with the related timeline of cash flow on that versus our waste destruction services, which has a higher investment up front, but we believe we'll have a longer period of recurring revenues, and finding that mix in order to bring the company to profitability and ultimately to positive cash flow.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a very informative presentation. We look forward to seeing more of those units out there and to see the stock price react accordingly. Thank you.
That's what we all look forward, and again, thank you for your time today and for the opportunity to share the 374Water story.
Tony Bancroft and Timothy Winter, CFA are portfolio managers. Wayne Pinsent, CFA is Director of Research and Research Analyst, and Rosemarie Morbelli, CFA, and Dr. Rebecca Stern, PhD are Research Analysts at Gabelli Funds. The above webcast is a recording from the 3rd Annual PFAS Symposium which occurred on September 17, 2025. GAMCO is providing these links as a matter of general information. We do not intend for these links to be a complete description of any security or company, nor is it a research report with respect to any of the companies mentioned herein. As of June 30, 2025, affiliates of GAMCO Investors Incorporated beneficially owned 1.1% of Minerals Technologies and less than 1% of all other companies mentioned. The analyst's views are subject to change at any time based on market and other conditions. The information in this posting represents the opinions of the analyst and is not intended to be a forecast of future events, a guarantee of future results, or investment advice. Views expressed are those of the analyst and may differ from those of other GAMCO officers, analysts, other employees, or of the firm as a whole. Because the investment personnel at GAMCO and our affiliates make individual investment decisions with respect to the client accounts that they manage, these accounts may have transactions inconsistent with the information contained in this posting. Certain GAMCO personnel may know the substance of the posting prior to its posting. This webcast is not an offer to sell any security nor is it a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Stocks are subject to market, economic and business risks that cause their prices to fluctuate. When you sell shares, they may be worth less than what you paid for them. For more information, a prospectus, or summary prospectus, visit our website at www.gabelli.com or call 800 Gabelli 800 422 3554 914 921 5100 fax 914 921 5118 info@gabelli.com.